I better use my strong hand.
Hello everyone, there have been a lot of questions about the Just Frame Cursed Crow that Zafina uses at the end of her combos and how to learn it. So I wanted to talk about that and just how I practice and learn Just Frames in general. I made a similar video for Soul Calibur 6, but that was a long time ago now, and I think it makes sense to talk about this again in the context of Tekken 7 and Zafina's new move. There are two important points I want to bring up before we go to footage of me actually practicing the Just Frame. And I'm just playing some combo footage here in the background meanwhile. So the first thing I want to bring up is that if you want to be a Zafina player, I definitely think you should teach yourself how to do this. The claw attack is important. It's what shores up your combo damage and changes it from being sort of below average to quite a bit above average. So it's important in that sense. Obviously, in the context that you just need a little bit more damage to kill the opponent and you're scared that you're going to drop the claw, you can modify and make a more simple combo to secure the kill. I think that makes perfect sense, but you definitely want this in your toolbox for when it's your best option. And I also think it's going to feel good for you as a Zafina player to know that this key important sort of signature technique with her is something that you can do. It's going to communicate to your opponent that you're serious about this character, and I think it's going to feel very satisfying. So definitely practice it, and I don't think it makes sense to try and modify all your combos to never use this technique. The second thing I wanted to bring up is the spam technique that I've seen a lot of people talk about in comment sections across the internet. So the input for this move is back 1 and then just frame 1 plus 2. And so what you can do is you can press back 1 and then hold the 1 button down and then just spam 2 as fast as you can, and then can let you get the move out. I found that not only is this very hard on your hands, it really tires you out, it's not very reliable because the just frame window is so small that in all likelihood you will not be pressing the button when the just frame occurs, and you can actually get a lot more consistency if you're just willing to practice a little bit and learn the perfect timing. And don't worry, this is definitely something you can teach yourself how to do with almost complete reliability, provided you're willing to go into practice mode and spend some time there. So the way I learn a move like this is I go into practice mode, and first of all, very important, make sure that you have in-game sound on. I personally turn off in-game music pretty much always. If I'm listening to music, I'm playing my own music in my room. I like to listen to a lot of hip-hop music, so I'm listening to rap music, which has a very nice steady beat, which I think is nice when I play Tekken. But it's completely up to you. You can use in-game music, you can use your own music, you can have no music, but you need to have in-game sound effects on because you're going to use in-game sound cues to learn the tempo and the timing of the attack. And so then what you want to do is try and build up a rhythm. So I'm going to go to the footage of me practicing it here, and I'm going to explain what I mean. So what we're looking at right now is just footage of me practicing this just frame last night. My voice has started to disappear a little bit, and I'm very sorry about that. In Japan in the summer you live with constant air conditioning and it tends to mess with your throat. But what I'm doing here is just trying to get a long chain of the just frame going. But the first thing you want to do is find your timing, and I found that in the case of this string, the perfect timing for the just frame button press is you want to press 1 plus 2 exactly when the sound effect of the back 1 hitting happens. And so what I mean is you're not going to listen for the sound effect and then press 1 plus 2 when you hear it, because that's way too slow. You have to become so familiar with this animation that you know when the sound effect will happen, and you're going to try and time your 1 plus 2 press to occur perfectly with that sound effect. And if it does, the move is going to come out properly. The next thing you need to decide is how you want to do your button press technique. In the case of this string, you have 3 different options. You can press back 1, let go, and then press 1 plus 2. You can press back 1, hold it to buffer, and then just press 2 with the right timing. Or if you're using button bindings, you can press back 1 and then just press your 1 plus 2 button that you've pre-bound with perfect timing. And you should just go with whatever makes sense to you, whatever is more comfortable. And then you're going to start practicing by playing a little bit of a mini game with yourself. And that's exactly what I'm doing on the screen right now. I'm pressing back 1, I'm doing the just frame, and if I see it come out, I immediately reset the positioning and I go again. And the reason I do that is I don't want to have to watch the entire animation happening every time, because that's a huge waste of time. You're going to be practicing 3 times slower if you let it happen every time. So I just do it. Once I see that I've done it properly, I reset and I go again. and I try to get a good chain going. And if I get a high score, my new goal is to try and beat that high score. In the beginning, you're not going to get it maybe even once, maybe even twice, but after a while, as you just keep on repeating this with the right rhythm, it's going to feel more and more natural, and then you get a chain of 5 going, and then you try and beat 5, and then maybe you get 10 going, and then you try and beat 10, and eventually your brain will just give up and let you become good at this because it's something that you're torturing it with, you know? You can tell that at the end of this chain I'm doing right here, I actually start fucking with the timing a little bit. I reset, but then instead of doing it right away, I wait for a little bit, like right there. And the reason I do that is I want to mess with myself because obviously in a real match context, that rhythm is not going to be there. And so I have to be able to do it with the right timing even when it's not. The rhythm is there to sort of pound this into your muscle memory and to help with that. But the timing needs to be able to happen obviously in a lot of different contexts. And speaking of that, the next thing I do is I change up the context for the move. And so what I'm doing here is I'm launching my opponents. I'm doing, you know, a whatever spin move, and then I'm doing a dash, and then I'm doing the move and doing the just frame. And this is the situation that you will be doing the move most of the time in game, because when you use it for a combo ender, you tend to spin, you dash, and then you do the just frame. And so I want that to also exist in my muscle memory and feel a little bit more natural. So I changed up the context, and now I play the same mini game again. How many times can I go in a row? How many times can I do it perfectly in a row? And I just try and go higher and higher and higher. I found that with these just frame chains that I do, a really weird thing that happens is if you start struggling a little bit, then if you leave the game and go do something else for a while, or you even go to sleep and you come back the next day, your mind has sort of put the puzzle pieces in place for you as you rested, and it's going to feel kind of more natural when you come back to it after a break. And so some of the longest chains I've ever done have been the first chain after coming back after a break. So if you feel like you're kind of losing your rhythm and it's getting a little bit harder, I really recommend a break. Change, you know, your environment, maybe take a walk outside, maybe do something else, or like I said, go to bed, let your body rest, and then come back the next day. And this is just going to start becoming more and more natural as you go along. The final tip I want to give you is when you start playing your first online matches with this character, definitely attempt to claw as much as possible in a real match context. That's going to lead to you dropping a lot of combos, dealing less damage, and maybe even losing a lot of matches. But I think that's fine. If you're trying to win for whatever reason and you're just trying to beat the opponent with whatever works, then you might shoot up in the ranks a little bit quicker. But if you take the time to actually practice this just frame and getting really good at it, then you're going to be the better Zafina player in the long run. Practice mode can actually be very fun in this game. Instead of going into that really high stress online environment and playing real matches, playing some of your own music, getting some snacks, and just spending even a couple of hours in practice mode can actually be a very enjoyable way of playing Tekken. And when you start seeing real match results, it's going to feel really, really good, and it's going to be a very satisfying way of playing this game and a very satisfying gaming experience. So I really recommend that you practice this. I've been able to, with just a little bit of practice, get it out quite reliably. And I haven't played a lot of Zafina online yet. I'm going to start doing that later today, and we're going to see how I do. Maybe we'll do some gameplay footage and talk about that. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I'm sorry that I'm losing my voice. I'm sorry that a jet is flying overhead right now and ruining the audio, but that's life. Have a nice day, and I'll talk to you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.